The federal government of Nigeria is composed of three distinct branches: the legislative, the executive, and the judicial, whose powers are vested and bestowed upon them by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the National Assembly, the President, and lastly the Federal Courts, which include the Supreme Court, which is regarded as the highest court in Nigeria. Nigerian politics takes place within a framework of a federal and presidential republic and a representative democracy, in which executive powers is held by the president, legislative power is held by the federal government, and the two chambers of legislature, the House of Representatives and the Senate. The legislative branch of Nigeria is responsible for the possessing powers of legislating laws. Together, the two chambers make up the law-making body in Nigeria called the National Assembly, which serves as a check on the executive arm of government.
The political processes has taken a reversed turn since 2015. What we are seeing today, to me, it's a far cry from what you call democratic practices. Starting from the elections, nominations in political parties, you see emerging godfathers in the various political parties imposing candidates here and there. You also see that the electoral processes itself are skewed towards government on most occasions. And the judiciary too did not also help, because I'm one of those people that advocate now that Election Petitions Tribunal should be removed from the electoral processes in Nigeria. In a place where the judiciary have to sacrifice merit and use technicalities to knock off cases devoid of the intent and intention of the electorates, those are not practices of democracy. Like you and I know, the basic definition of democracy is the government of the people, for the people, and by the people. When the judiciary now by themselves pronounce people into offices, when in the very worst instance, they could have said, okay, go and do a rerun, let us see. Because the person who is elected into the office should actually be a choice by the majority of the people. So that at the end of the day, whether the person asks right or not, it makes the people to know that in making choices at the next time, they have to look properly. Right now, you have a lot of citizen apathy. You tell people now about voting, they are going to tell you that whether we vote or not, they already know those that they want, and they have a way of putting them there. I don't think that is democratic. I don't think that is the true intention of democracy. Where democracy now become dictatorship in another way, I don't think I don't think we are doing it right. Honestly, I see that we are failing. The zeal, the enthusiasm with which we embraced democracy in 1999 through 2003, 2007, 2011 to 2015 has suddenly had a reversed effect, because the people's will and wish, we are not seeing it as the outcome of the democratic process that is coming to elections.
Politics in Nigeria today, in my view, haven't been the best that we expected of politics. Politics will be people-oriented, it will be developmental, it will be such that those who are governed will not be separated or alienated from government. So if you ask me, I would say, in what we were experiencing in the politics of Nigeria, it has not been so, because the people are completely disconnected from governance. Well, this is apparent, it's obvious. It is either inept of each government that have been brought, it's either the government is not people-centered, it's either that their preoccupation is corruption itself. And so all of these are indices that can, of course, alter any set process to deliver the people of a particular sovereignty where there is government. Money politics is dangerous very well, and I can tell you that is what we are suffering from, because money politics is not what should be encouraged, what should be expected to be. For us, it's dangerous, it's a disease.
We are looking at leadership, and for the past 16 years, we were thinking we were going towards a right direction when we thought that godfatherism has ended and we are talking about one man, one vote. It's a pity and it's a shame that it was just on paper, it never existed. We are looking at bringing dynamics, bringing growth and bringing the right change. That hope everybody is looking up that we should bring leadership.
The National Assembly of Nigeria is a democratically elected body that represents the interests of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and its people. It makes laws for Nigeria and holds the government of Nigeria to account. The National Assembly is the nation's highest legislature whose powers to make laws for the country. The federal government, state and local government of Nigeria aim to work cooperatively to govern the nation and its people. For there to be a president, a governor, local government bosses, and even members of the National Assembly, there must be an election. For the National Assembly to function, the citizens must come out en masse to vote for representatives of their choice. The process of electing leaders in Nigeria has evolved over the years, and many pundits has opined that the process of electing leaders for various offices has been marred by various anomalies.
Well, still somehow very disappointing that up to now that we've been able to fix politics in the country, where there's still a lot of hardship on our people, and governance is next to nothing. You know, you can see elections coming up, people running up and down, and you know, a lot of people are contesting for this position of the governor. You know, without recourse to what is really happening, because we always believe that we can do it. And you look at people, with all due respect and all respect, due respect to, you know, most of them, well, I believe that should wait a bit for their time before they start running to contest. You know, without missing words, I think Edo State is a different state and a peculiar state compared to the other 35 states in the country. And I can say that we have really moved a metaphor from where we were yesterday to where we are today. And I hope and I pray for the best of the state and the country at large. Money politics, you know, because of the hunger, you can't take that out totally. There's a lot of hunger, there's starvation, there's problem, there's, you know, poverty, you know, in our society. So they believe that the only way they can get what they want when politicians come kneeling and begging them is to get money from them. So I don't think we can really take that out of it. No. It's very unfortunate.
Politics today in Nigeria, I think it is getting matured. Even though some certain political leaders still believe we are in the old days, that where you have to use intimidations and use finances and otherwise to suppress their way to become the leader of tomorrow or be the aspired candidate or person to represent us. I think the problem we need to really look, we have gone through those processes. Buying of votes, we got it, it's over off. People were disgraced with their money in the last election, even though they were trying to buy the vote. They collected their money and voted for somebody else. So the time of people to program their election towards the ideologies because they have big money. They're going to buy the vote, they're going to do this. I think it should get out of their mind. That is one point. Why the other point of view? I still believe the federal government is going to still do more when it comes to state elections, because you see the intimidation of the ruling party, the intimidation of the executive governments in different states, the way they use their intimidation, their forces. Gone are those days. It's time we should start thinking, how do we convince our people with the manifesto we have? How do we convince our people with the intentions we have? How do we convince our people that we have done this before and we can do more? All these plays to make you a political candidate. But I can tell you today, there are some few that still think that other way all round. That we can say, it will never work.
Today in Nigeria, politics has evolved beyond what it used to be in its inception. Politicians, religious leaders, traditional rulers, and the youths have one way or the other contributed both positively and negatively to the development and underdevelopment of Nigerian politics. Some factors made the Nigerian politics the least desired kind of democracy globally. These underlisted factors has gone a long way to undermine the gains of democracy. Corruption. It is not news to everyone that the country has been labeled as one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Most Nigerian politicians are known for their corrupt deeds, as the statistics says that 70% of corruption practices came from politicking. Government officials often put the funds that belong to the public in foreign bank accounts. Private citizens are known to help out in the process of money laundering. On top of everything else, the politicians hide billions of naira under different names of society to stay unaware of the money stealing practices. Corruption also blossoms in the law and police force, so the citizens no longer trust these branches with their safety. This problem is one of the foundations of the general crisis in Nigerian politics. This is because corruption can leak into various settings and threaten our political institutions, economic sector, and other spheres of life. Hence, the stench of corruption has eroded the political scene, and something needs to be done about this. Tribalism. Tribalism is one of the major political issues in Nigeria. This results in political differences, civil war, human losses, and blindness during elections, which means that the citizens vote not because of the political capability of the candidate, but via tribal sentiments. This problem has always been the root of all other issues in the country, and nowadays people are tribally biased towards or against people from the same or different backgrounds. When a politician commits a crime, he or she is forgiven by people of their tribe, but viewed as the worst criminal by people from the other tribe. This psychology is divisive and does nothing good for Nigerian people, politically speaking. Godfatherism. This is a political sponsorship based on manipulation and imposing someone's agenda on other politicians. Many people who venture into politics would look for their godfathers as the first move in their political careers. This is a term for looking for a person who would be your career patron and push you towards acquiring a higher political position. Many politicians seem to be forgetting that Nigeria is a democratic state and that the government should depend entirely on the choices of the Nigerian citizens, which they have a chance to make through independent elections. Money politics. Money politics, in a layman's understanding, is that kind of politics whereby members of a political party offer money and other things in order to win support from certain individuals or communities during an election campaign. During elections in Nigeria, it was not uncommon to hear of instances where people were given money, rice, stockfish, salt, and cloth. In return, the recipient would cast their vote for a specific political party. At the end of the day, they realized that they sold their right, which is their vote, to the wrong party. The phenomenon of money politics in Nigeria is not a new concept. The history of electioneering processes in the country, especially after independence, was largely influenced with buying and selling of votes. Money politics is quickly shrinking the political space, becoming a key variable in determining who participates in electoral politics. As a matter of fact, nomination fees for party members seeking elective position, for instance, have become so high that only the rich can participate in party primaries. Even after the primaries on the election day, money is being used to sway voters' choice of candidates and political parties. Some wealthy politicians can give as much as 10,000 naira to an electorate to buy his or her conscience, while voting, some very poor electorate can take as little as 1,000 naira. Hence the danger of money politics.
Democracy by theory and detailed practice ought to be the best form of government anywhere you can think of in the world. But in this part of the world, very unfortunately, where we tend to look at things from a perspective that passes undue advantages to those in authority, to those that have the power to, decide what happened. So they tend to explain it to favor their own perspective, and this is the problem we are having with what we have. The democracy ought to be, an accountable form of government where the power actually resides with the majority of the people. But what we find in this society is where authority are being applied, and it's becoming worse than even the military government. The governors are becoming emperors in their own entity, and no other offices should exist. And these are supposed to be the characteristics and the attributes of democracy, where the executive should have its commissioners making input. The directors of the parastatals and the other ministries are having input. The permanent secretary are making advisory, because they are the repository of the knowledge of the government, are making their advisory input either to the governor and to its commissioner. But what we find here is it is the governor and governor and governor alone. They will collapse the House of Assembly, collapse the ministry, collapse the department and agency, and that the state government are being micromanaged. We have a little semblance of democracy maybe at the federal, because as of now, there's a little bit of separation of power between the legislature, the National Assembly, and the executive. But the influence of the president, the influence of the powers of the president is also telling a lot on them. We have a lot of them coming home, share a view, but when they get to the center, it's a different ballgame. So whether they have no idea, and that the whole thing is taking a different, because the concept right now that is being developed on a daily basis is no longer reflective of the original idea that tend to bring up democracy. Immunities are being abused. Loopholes in the government, the interpretation of institutional concepts are being misinterpreted and applied wrongly to suit certain interests, vested interests. So we have a problem, and you can see even the political party, there is virtually no place where you don't have. They have forgotten that this can lead to crisis that will eventually crumble democracy.
Until we, the young ones, stand up, shun leadership, shun godfatherism, and focus on our future, like we holding our destiny in our own hands, being a youth, as far as this country is concerned, we are still going to remain where we are. So I'll use this opportunity to beg each and everyone, most especially the youth. If you look at the suffer we have today, it did not just start from today. It started some years ago, right from the day we gained independence. They did not save for the rainy day. They just saved all what they were just looking for, how to get out they can enrich themselves and save for their children unborn. That is the more reason why we are here. So, let's try and see how we can work on. Look for a leader that have the interest of the common man in the streets. If we can look for this person that can really stand to say, I want to change everything, even me myself, I want to change the things I'm doing, until we find those kind of leader that can carry everybody along, I bet you, if we did not, if there's no person like that, we are still going to remain where we are.
Man by nature, they said, is a political animal, and so we cannot run away from it. In Nigeria, the democratic process has come to stay, and it is left for the actors, the gladiators, to deepen the process, not to be seen manipulating or putting a clog in the wheel of progress, so that the ordinary man can feel the impulse of democracy. And politics, as it were, is to serve the people. Politics is to serve the people, to bring services closer to the people and to make life meaningful for them. And so for Nigeria, for now, we are not yet there, but with the awareness that is being galvanized through the various different media, even the civil society, the different groups that are now getting aware of who they are to the system, are now starting to ask questions, asking for accountability from those whom they have elected and from the process. And so, by the way we are going, the way people are now asking questions, politics is going to make the system very stable very soon. Don't exclude yourself from the process. Come out. It is because good people are refused to participate. That is why evil people are all over everywhere.
Political thuggery. General elections in Nigeria have been characterized by widespread protests, riots, and violence, usually caused by political supporters. Anytime there is violence, there is a total breakdown of law and order, and it is usually accompanied with irrational behaviors that leads to killing, maiming, looting, etc. Political aspirants mobilize unemployed youths and instigate them to threaten or unleash violence on their opponents as a means of achieving political ambition. The presence of fierce-looking political thugs at polling centers at times do scare credible voters away, as a result of which the thugs and other unqualified voters are unlawfully allowed to take charge of the whole process and vote for the candidate of their choice. Political thuggery and violence constitute political problems that climax into political instability and endanger democracy. This is no doubt that it also constitutes major threats to national security and enhances bad governance. Voter apathy. Since its return to electoral democracy in 1999, Nigerians' elections have been characterized by voters' apathy. A small percentage of the voting population actually vote, which is an affront to the idea of majority rule, which is one of the basic tenets of democracy. It follows that instead of majority rule, there is a minority rule in Nigeria, because in a population of more than 200 million, there were 82.3 million registered voters as collated by the Independent National Electoral Commission, and only 28.6 million voted in 2019 election. A mere 35% of registered voters voted in the past election. Some factors are responsible for voters' apathy vis-a-vis bad governance. The way politics and governance is being practiced in Nigeria discourages people from participating in the electoral process. Governance in Nigeria is characterized by deceit and unfulfilled promises, mostly made by politicians at campaign rallies, but remain unfulfilled even after they are elected into office. Religion hinders a significant portion of Nigerians from contributing to democratic governance. Some religious bodies do not lobby, vote for political parties or candidates. They don't even run or go for government offices or participate in any action to change government. They believe the God they serve taught his disciple not to be part of the world. Therefore, they see no reasons to contribute to political issues. Political violence and thuggery, chaotic and violent situations that characterize some polling units and collation centers in Nigeria has created fear and distrust among Nigerians. And this has led most to neglect their civic duties and responsibilities. Lack of trust in the election management body. In most cases, it is impossible for politicians to rig election without the assistance of some corrupt election officials. This gave some citizens the notion that even when they vote, their votes do not count. And this needs to stop. The Nigerian media. As you may know, the media is a large part of a democratic society. Sometimes some corrupt media practitioners take money to cover up the bad side of a politician and attacking the politician that do not patronize them. Some rich politicians do have media outfit that can twist political stories to favor them and paint perceived opponents in bad light. Media outfits owned by the government of the day are pro-government, cover their lapses, thereby preventing the citizens from knowing the bad side of the said government. This does not help Nigerian politics in any way. Terrorist group. Nigeria today has been plagued by various terrorist groups vis-a-vis Boko Haram, ISWAP, bandits, kidnappers, killer headsmen, you just name it. Where these groups operate, the citizens will be scared of coming out to partake in electioneering for the fear of their safety. These terrorist strikes without warning, thereby inflicting pains and sufferings on the citizens. In this situation, no sane person that is security conscious would want to risk their lives for the sake of an election. The politicians. The politicians, due to desperation, have turned politics into a do-or-die affair, sponsoring of thugs, causing mayhem when they perceive they are losing in a particular election, hiring assassins to kill political opponents, hitting up the polity when it's not favoring them. Most times, these actions or inaction of some politicians goes a long way to determine how peaceful or troublesome an election will be. Politics without bitterness can only be practiced when these politicians see politics as a game and not a do-or-die affair. Putting all these factors together, Nigeria can only get it right politically when we put the interests of our country first. Politics devoid of rancor, acrimony, and violence is possible if the actors plays according to the rules. The electoral umpire, politicians, electorate, judiciary, and the government of the day should all come together to salvage our democracy for all to enjoy its dividends. Wilson Omasho reporting.